Okay, class. What we're going to do right now is review what we've been learning all week long. Actually, a little bit of last week as well. Fraction frenzy. Just to review, our fraction 1/3 is broken into two parts. All fractions are. That top number is the numerator. The bottom number is the denominator. Now, this is a proper fraction because the numerator is smaller than the denominator. And whenever that happens, it's called a proper fraction. Taking our fractions, let's talk about making equivalent fractions. We did that on last week. In order to write an equivalent fraction, you've got to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the same digit. It doesn't matter what the digit is. But for me, I like to choose smaller numbers just because it's easier for me to do in my head. So if I take 2/3 and multiply both the numerator and denominator by 2, I'm going to get 4/6. If I take the same fraction, 2/3, and multiply both the numerator and denominator by 3, I'm going to get 6/9. So that tells me that 2/3 is equivalent to 4/6, and 2/3 is also equivalent to 6/9. Now let's review simplifying or reducing fractions. Remember, those words can be used interchangeably. They mean about the same thing. We're making this fraction 8/12 smaller. What we must do first is list the factors of those numbers, the numerator and denominator, because we've got to find the greatest ones they have in common. When we list factors, we're listing the numbers you multiply together to get the product of 8 and the product of 12. These are the factors of 8 and the factors of 12, and you can see 4 is the greatest number that they have in common. So that's our GCF, the greatest common factor. Go back to your fraction 8/12. Divide both the numerator and the denominator by the GCF of 4, and you get a simplified fraction of 2/3. It's also equivalent. 8/12 is equivalent to 2/3. So you're really pretty much doing the same thing that you did up here. So what does that tell you? In order to get an equivalent fraction, I know I don't just have to multiply. I can also divide both the numerator and denominator by the same digit. And that will give me an equivalent fraction as well. Lastly, let's talk about comparing fractions using the least common multiple. The least common multiple, that word multiple is different from factors in that you are counting by the numbers. You are not writing the digits you multiply together to get this product, but you're counting, skip counting, by those numbers. In this case, by the denominators 3 and 8. Why are we doing this? Because we must get the denominators to be the same digit in order to compare. And since they're not, I got to change that. So I'm counting by 3s and I'm counting by 8s until I get to the very first, the least number that they have in common, or multiple that they have in common. The least common multiple of 3 and 8 is 24. So now that's going to be my new denominator for both fractions. I'm rewriting the fractions. If I change the denominator, I also must change the numerator. So since that is the case, I have to multiply because it became larger. 3 became 24. It got bigger, so I'm multiplying. I have to figure out, what am I going to multiply by? 3 times 8 is 24, so I'm multiplying by 8. Remember, you have to multiply by the same digit. 2 times 8 is 16. That's my new numerator. Over here, I multiply by 3 because 8 times 3 is 24. So I multiply by the same digit. 7 times 3 is 21. The last step in comparing fractions is to actually compare. We're comparing those numerators now, because our denominators are the same. 21 is larger than 16. So this fraction is less than this fraction. If that's the case, then 2/3 is less than 7/8. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.